Okay, this lighting is way better than whatever I had in my last video. Also, this is Star Buddy. He's just gonna be watching me as I film, so don't mind him. So I watched a video from Food Theory a while back about how Gen Z isn't drinking as much alcohol as other generations. And it's funny because even though I knew who Matt Pat was, I was never really a Blank Theory fan particularly, as in like I just didn't really watch their content because I don't know, I just didn't. So it was interesting, I decided to watch that video, but it was a very interesting video. It was basically going over how Gen Z is like the first generation where you're seeing a statistical dip, like a decline in alcohol usage compared to previous generations. And there's obviously a lot of reasons why this could be, which they went over in the video. And there were also a lot of comments pitching in explaining why they believe that people don't drink as much alcohol anymore. First of all, the prices, everyone's broke, nobody has the money to go buy alcohol. They've seen their parents drinking it growing up and they saw that nothing good came out of it. A lot of people unfortunately dealt with their own trauma, you know, alcohol abuse of parents, and of course them having to deal with that. A lot of people just think it doesn't really taste good. Now, as somebody who has never drank alcohol and has no intention of doing so, I can't really pitch in this conversation when it comes to that type of stuff because I have no experience with it. However, what did come to mind for me, and what a few people in those comment sections have also said, is that because people are just drinking more caffeine, it's really just because another chemical has taken priority and popularity over alcohol. Caffeine is the new alcohol. Caffeine is the new favorite drug addiction. And of course, a lot of us actually forget that fact, but yes, caffeine is a drug. It's kind of hard to fathom because it's like, it's not the same as hard drugs like, you know, meth or cocaine or marijuana or something like that. So we kind of tend to gloss over that fact because it doesn't really seem like a drug to us. And also just kind of funny to think that your average white girl going to Starbucks getting her little Frappuccino is a drug user. But yes, caffeine is a drug, and a very popular one at that. But it's not like caffeine is anything new. Caffeine was always a substance that we indulged in. So what specifically is causing this very big shift? I want to keep my glasses on, but I think it's causing a glare. I'm gonna have to take these off, but I like my glasses. Whatever, just deal with the glare, okay? I'll try not to lift my head. Okay, so let's start with the obvious. Psychologically and neurologically, we like caffeine. It gives us an energy boost and our brain reacts to it very well. And culturally speaking, in our fast-paced society, caffeine obviously helps us to get more work done, to stay productive for longer. Something like alcohol isn't really conducive to that goal. Alcohol typically tends to be associated with gatherings and socializing. And with people socializing a lot less, we are also seeing a lot less usage of alcohol. More on that later. But something else I noticed specifically when it comes to how caffeine is introduced into our lives, at least in today's day and age, is a bit different than how it was before. As mentioned before, caffeine is big business, so trying to get more people interested in caffeine makes sense. And the way that it's been done recently is in a way that's very subtle, but just enough to get it into people's systems. One of those common ways, obviously, is with coffee and the romanticism of it. Aesthetic school videos, vlogs, TikToks of girls making cute, colorful, caffeinated drinks. There's a whole vibe that comes with it. And that vibe is primarily what's selling the coffee, not the coffee itself. We have to remember that most of the time when things get big and they go viral, it's almost never just about the product, but more about what the product represents to people. It's a status symbol. You see this with things like luxury brands or clothing lines or celebrity endorsed products. It's like, yeah, sure, the product is cool and all, but it's not like you couldn't find another product that probably does the same thing and probably costs a lot less. But it's the idea of the product that people love so much. And a prime example of that is, of course, matcha. Matcha has gotten so popular that there is now a shortage in certain countries that supply it. So you really mean to tell me that everybody in the world all of a sudden just loves matcha that much? All of a sudden, out of the blue, now everybody needs a cup of matcha. No, I can guarantee you that most people aren't drinking it because they love the flavor and it's immaculate and they can't live without it. It's just trendy. It's one of those things where it's like, I mean, I don't hate it, so, you know, I'm at the Starbucks or I'm at whatever shop I'm at, may as well just get the drink. And then you see all the cute recipes for it, you see how aesthetic it looks. And yes, matcha also naturally has caffeine in it, actually more so than green tea does. All in all, it just looks nice. It's nice to have something that looks good and aesthetic while you're on a little errand run or while you're, you know, getting some work done. It adds to the romanticism of the vibe. And it also does the job of connecting an individual to all of the millions of other people who also suddenly like matcha and are posting their videos about it and TikToks about it. You feel more connected. Now, particularly with things like pretty looking coffees, these tend to be more popular among women. At least on the internet, you mostly see women posting videos about it or making drinks or having them with their little vlogs and stuff like that. But what about the men? How do they appeal appeal to getting men to drink more caffeine or to have more caffeine in their diet to get them hooked too, because, we're trying to maximize profits here. We're trying to get everybody addicted. Naturally, where do they run? The gym bro community. Now, of course, it's not like going to the gym is exclusively a male thing, nor drinking pretty coffees is exclusively a female thing, obviously. But it's just kind of a silent, unsaid rule that that's typically where they tend to go. But of course, at the end of the day, a drink is a drink. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But a guy going to Starbucks and asking for like a, I don't know, chocolate strawberry frappuccino, whatever it is, people give him the bombastic side eye for it. It doesn't make sense, but that's what happens.
All right, he'll have the matcha, and can I get a camera sassafras, please?
It's also kind of messed up that every single time a person wants to attack a man's masculinity, which is stupid on its own, but then they also throw gay men under the bus like all the time. They're the butt of the joke. I'm not gonna get too much into that because that's a whole nother video I want to talk about, because I feel like it happens so often and it's so normalized. It's really messed up when you actually think about the principle of it all. But we're getting off topic. The point is, a man can't go get a matcha or else he's gay. So what does he do? He goes to the gym. And things like pre-workouts and energy drinks are obviously very big in the gym community. It's the perfect time to capitalize on that, especially after this very recent cultural shift of like men versus women. So men are leaning a lot more into self-improvement, and a lot of that has to do with their physical appearance, which again leads them to the gym. Or at least going to the gym is typically one of the more common ways to do that. And that means you indulge in the entire package. Energy drinks, again, as mentioned before, is a very common way to get this into their system, and is very popular to have when you're working out. And the amount of caffeine in energy drinks can vary. You have your typical, like a Red Bull that's got like, what, 100, 160, I think it was, milligrams of caffeine in it. Or you have companies like Bang that has 300 milligrams of caffeine in one energy drink. The daily recommended amount for an adult is 400, by the way. And that doesn't take into consideration the pre-workouts that they use, which I only just now realized for research for this video that pre-workout had caffeine in it. I thought it was just like mainly protein and stuff like that, but nah, they sprinkle in some caffeine in there too. And again, the way that these are all being advertised is different from the way previous generations had things advertised to them, because obviously they didn't have social media. Back then it was just, I don't know, newspapers, stone tablets, messenger pigeons, carrying letters and stuff. I'm making a joke for anybody who didn't catch on. But back then the marketing was more subtle. It was more word of mouth. It was more newspapers or magazines or whatever. Again, it's not like caffeine and things like coffee hasn't been drank in the past. It's not like our previous generations, our parents, grandparents weren't drinking caffeine. But the exposure to it, how common it was in the foods that we eat, and how much aggressive marketing was towards these foods, that's what ended up changing. You don't see cute little like martinis and stuff going viral on TikTok the way that you see a matcha does. Whatever the subject verb agreement, the correct grammatical pronunciation was for that. But alcoholic beverages don't do the same thing that caffeinated beverages do. So as of right now, it's just the more popular drug to try and sneak into everyone's lives, specifically through unsuspecting means. Again, even if you're getting something like a trendy matcha, you're not thinking about the fact that it has caffeine in it, but it does. And if that's your first introduction to caffeine, it's already in your system. You get it once, okay, I kind of like it, and you go back to get more. So there's that's causing it to be popular, but there's also something else. Notice in what niche these caffeinated foods and drinks are being introduced in. Coffees are normally associated with work. Having a coffee early in the morning when you wake up, in the office, taking calls or whatever. Exercise and going to the gym is associated with improvement, bettering your health and working on yourself. As I mentioned earlier in the beginning of this video, the shift from alcohol to caffeine is a shift of more focus towards productivity. I said I would get back to the concept of alcohol being associated with things like socialization. And there are a lot of us that are aware of this loneliness epidemic that we're seeing, with more people feeling more isolated, feeling like they have less real connections. So obviously, therefore, they're not going out to bars and stuff like that with their friends. And then social anxiety stops them from wanting to go to the bar alone, because that's kind of like weird and like I don't want to talk to people and make new friends because I don't really know how to do that. But also just focusing on the chemical itself, alcohol, it completely mentally impairs you. It makes you sluggish, you can't think straight. It just doesn't make you feel good after the fact either. You get your annoying hangovers the next day, you don't feel like doing anything. It completely inhibits productivity. It is in its essence the exact opposite of what caffeine is. In other words, alcohol for a lot of people is just simply immature. While you're out drinking the night away, I have more important stuff to do. I have a meeting in the morning, or I have to go complete some assignments, or I have to go to the gym and work out. And on top of that, the more cultural shift, at least Western and specifically in America, with recent events of more self-centered movements. Focus on yourself, take care of yourself, be your own boss, cutting people off, treat yourself, be yourself, express yourself, right? It's all about you. Alcohol doesn't fit that narrative. It's interestingly a shift from what a lot of people felt before, where it was like, if you're not drinking alcohol, you're lame, you're a weirdo, you have no friends, you're a prude or whatever, to now it basically being the opposite. It's cooler to be the sober one. It's more mature. And again, I'm not saying all this as if it's an objective statement of like people who drink are immature and lazy and all that type of stuff. I'm saying it from the perspective of culture and society. Not that I'm also saying that you like should go out and like drink every night and stuff like that. I mean, again, you can do whatever you want, but just like do it responsibly. But it's like when you say that, nobody actually does it responsibly. Let's be real here. Too many cases of people dying of alcohol poisoning. Like I just recently learned that there's a lot of people that die from drinking too much alcohol. That's disturbing and also sad because it's just so preventable. So just please be careful when you drink, okay? But with caffeine literally symbolizes productivity. It is what the chemical does. It's associated with self-improvement, with getting work done. And it makes the literal, physical, biological impacts of caffeine even stronger just because of our perspective of it. In my class this semester, my professor were talking a lot about mismatch, which is basically really heavy on evolutionary psychology, how we used to do things in the past. And I mean like very, very far in the past versus how we do things now with improvements on technology and stuff like that. It's a very interesting class, especially because I love evolutionary psychology. I think it's one of the more underrated umbrella categories of psychology. But I remember my professor saying that if biological conditions are in a situation where it can thrive, it will. And I feel like this whole caffeine thing is a perfect example of that and a huge case study for it too. Because like I said, you have the literal physical effects of caffeine on your biology mixed with the cultural attitude of it all and our perspective of it all, which makes those effects stronger. It's like the perfect storm. And the thing about our culture when it comes to caffeine is not only is caffeine super condoned and accepted, but it's celebrated, it's encouraged. If you told some random stranger that you had 3 beers last night or 3 beers waking up this morning, they're gonna give you the bombastic side eye a little bit, they're probably not gonna say it outright, but they're gonna be like, oh, okay, where's AA when you need them? But if you told the same stranger that, oh yeah, I had 3 cups of coffee today, it's not even noon, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, so relatable. Can't start the day without my coffee. There's an entire aesthetic around coffee, but first coffee. You see that little saying on stickers and stuff like that. There is not enough cultural shame for caffeine. It is the one drug that we have that everybody actively condones. And we tend to think of things like shame as bad things and inherently negative. And they are, especially in certain circumstances, but it's necessary for a culture and a society to thrive because that's how we create these social constructs, these rules that we have. If we're not getting that outside feedback from the world, then we're not gonna know which behaviors we should continue, which ones are problematic. And in this situation, drinking like a lot of caffeine during the day is problematic. Yet we don't see it that way because the world does not perceive it that way, or the Western world, America, does not perceive it that way, okay? Other countries probably see it the same way too, but I want to talk more with experience, in the country that I'm in. I can't speak for other countries, but I hear it on a daily basis at school, professors and students alike. Oh my gosh, I'm on my 3rd cup of coffee today. And even though it's said like a joke, it's also the truth. And there's never a time where anybody goes, that's not good, you gotta be careful. It's rewarded with validation. Oh, that's relatable. I get you, I understand you. Me too, I'm doing the same thing. Validation is a drug in itself because we need it to survive. So every single time we're getting that feedback, we're getting that validation from the outside world saying, no, it's perfectly fine you have 5 cups of coffee today. That's understandable. We're all busy, we all have things to do. There is no signal that there is a problem that needs to be interfered with, that needs to be stopped. So if a person is genuinely addicted to caffeine, which a lot of people unfortunately are, they're not getting any feedback that there is an actual problem with that addiction. They won't know unless they are culturally shamed, unless they're ostracized, but no one's doing that. The only signal that they're gonna have is eventually their body's giving out from having too much caffeine, and by then, it's gonna be too late. There's several people that ended up in the hospital because they're overdosing on caffeine. And just saying that out loud is something you never hear. It's like, what do you mean overdosing on caffeine? But it can happen.
Guys, so I had a heart attack, as most of you guys know, from taking this Redcon 1 Total War.
There's generally no awareness when it comes to using caffeine. Nobody tells you, be careful of caffeine. They tell you to be careful of every other drug. When it comes to caffeine, there's nothing. And the thing about all of these companies that are capitalizing on all of this is that there will never be an end to their reign, because all they have to do is evolve with the trends. Oh, the Dubai chocolate Labubu 6-7 coffee isn't trending anymore? That's okay. They'll just wait like 2 weeks later and the next trend is gonna come about. Then they'll make the pomegranate princess girly pop cherry frappuccino. I don't know. All they have to do is wait, and then they'll get another influx of people coming in to buy their products that has caffeine in it. And again, even if it's just a little bit that's in the drink, even if it's just, I'm gonna try it just this once, that is enough to get it into your system to want you to go back to get more. And then the more you have it, the more resistance you're gonna have against it. You're gonna need more cups of coffee. Instead of just one that day, it's gonna be 2, and then eventually 3, and then eventually 4. And then take that with one person and multiply it by millions upon millions of people that are constantly doing this every day, all across the world for certain companies. They are always going to win this because all they have to do is wait and profit on our biology. So this whole video was not to tell people to stop drinking caffeine, of course. That would be hypocritical because I too love myself a coffee every now and then, but definitely get better at regulating it. You have to understand it is a drug just like any other drug. Yes, it's not as intense, right? I'm not gonna say that they're of the same intensity, but it can be if you're not using it correctly. And once again, you're not really gonna get a lot of outside social feedback being like, hey, stop drinking so much coffee, or so many matchas, or so many green teas, or so many protein shakes, or, so many energy drinks. If you don't have anyone reminding you, it can be easy to forget. So consider this your reminder. Try to track your caffeine usage. And I don't mean meticulously like counting calories or something like that, but just be aware of it, Next time you're gonna go to Starbucks, understand how much caffeine is in the drink, how much you already had that day, how much you're probably going to have for the rest of the day. Keep all of that in mind. If you find yourself getting too dependent on it, try to cut back. Again, I know it's hard because it's a drug, but it starts by noticing it early. If you can instead stop having 3 coffees and maybe just try to cut down to 1. Yeah, sure, you might be a little sluggish during the day, but find different ways to get that energy back. Try doing other things to stimulate your brain, keep yourself awake. That way you can kind of slowly distance yourself and withdraw from having to need so much caffeine to start the day. A lot of people say that, I can't start my day without coffee. It's like, yeah, because you've conditioned yourself to do that. If you try to cut back on that, you won't feel the necessity to have to rely on it. So just be aware of it, be careful of it, and do not let these companies prey on our psychology. Remember, at the end of the day, you're the consumer. You fuel them. They need you, not the other way around. And that is all I have to talk about for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.